Did you know that according to the College Board, students who take AP exams are 20% more successful in college and they're 20% more than likely to graduate than the rest of their classmates? Hello, everyone. My name is Ava, and I'm here to speak to you about education, college admissions, high school, everything that has to do with acceptance into colleges and your success. So, if you have been following me on social for a while, you know that I deeply care about topics like that. And I'm here with another discussion about the APs. Maybe you're a high school student or maybe you're a parent, but if you happen to know, the AP tests came out last week on Friday, and some of the results are still trickling out. Many students have reached out with lots of questions, and I have to tell you, my DMs are just exploding. I have parents asking, what should we do? My child earned a 2. I don't really feel like discussing the scores, but I'm scared. Please tell me, is there something I can do and retake it? Some students are, of course, jubilant because they earned 4s and 5s. But anyway, this is going to be a video that will address the APs in general and how do they reflect on your college application. How do colleges look at the AP testing that you're taking? And what happens if you have taken the AP test but you have not been successful? So first things first, let's just address what are the APs and why is there such a commotion about the AP testing. I am located in California, and I have to tell you, I have students who are literally competing and taking 10 to 12 to 15 AP classes, and this is just becoming a little bit untenable. It is very difficult for students having to tackle such a heavy coursework load and at the same time maintain their extracurricular activities. So, something needs to be said about the AP classes and their importance in general. And then I would like to address 3 myths about the AP tests. So every year, students take the AP Advancement Placement exams, and sometimes they begin taking those even as early as freshman year. In fact, I even have students who begin taking AP tests in 8th grade. So, yes, there's schools like that. And on the contrary, now there are schools that do not even offer any AP tests and they're just offering honors testing. So, it's honors classes rather. So, it's really interesting and important to compare and contrast. How does the honors class compare to a class you take that is an AP class? And should you really take the exam at the end? And what happens if you opt out of that exam? Ultimately, I have to just tell you straightforward, if you're one of those students who is really worried about your score this year, or you have had in previous years, you have had a scores like a 2 or a 3, and I even had a message from a student who got a 1 this year. I have to tell you that the AP testing, it's and how you report those test scores at the end is entirely up to you. So the AP testing is self-reported on the common application. That means you have a choice to only list your scores of 4 and 5s, and you can definitely keep away from putting the 3s and the 2s, and certainly you should not put the 1. What will the colleges read into if you mention that yes, these are the classes that you have been taking that are advanced placement classes, because you'll be listing your grades in your Common App. But at the end, when you list the scores of your AP tests and that score is missing, and they see that you have taken AP US History, for example, but you did not declare a score at the end, what will they surmise from that? Well, they will honestly, they will look and think, okay, the student probably did not earn a high enough score to mention that on the application. When do they get to see the scores? They get to see these scores at the very, very end, after you're accepted, after you have committed to that school. And you have until July 1st to submit your original high school transcript that is sent straight from your high school to the college of your choice that you have committed to. And that is the time when you'll go on the College Board and you will take all of your AP tests and send them to that same college. You will send all of your AP tests, no matter what your score was on the test. It is up to the college to look through and decide whether they will give you credits for the APs or not. Just so you know, most private colleges and universities will not give you a credit for your AP tests. Most of the times, all the AP US history, AP World History, AP Geography that you're really, really stressing about will actually not award any credit on your final transcript. You will not be given credit if you have to take that class again. You will end up taking it again in your new college. They're the ones to decide. It is up to them. Most public universities will give you some credits. How do you know which one gives you credit and which one will not? You can go to the College Board website and you can take a look and see they have listed each and every AP class, how many credits you're most likely to receive from the public universities. However, you still have to understand that it is up to the college and university to really give you credits for your AP testing and AP class. It is up to them. Why, you might say? Because let's just say that you're a student who is on a pre-med track and you really want to get a credit for your AP US history. First of all, if you're on a pre-med track, if you in any point in time you have thought, I will be a medical doctor and I will be continuing my education until the MCAT and until I get into medical school, you're not advised to be looking into AP credits and insist on having those transferred. Most likely your AP bio, you will just have to retake that again in that college or university. Most universities, the reason why they do not give you credit for the AP classes you have taken in high school is because they do not think that these APs are at the level at which the same subject matter is being taught at that university. Even though it is an advanced placement, it is a college level like class, it still remains to be a college level class that you have taken in your high school. And they do want you to go through the same class in that university because of the professors, their research, and everything that all the knowledge they're trying to impart into you in their school. Also, again, let's say I'm going back to the pre-med example because this is one very particular track where you have to satisfy certain requirements, and it is rather stringent. And not only that, but your MCAT heavily depends on your preparation. You're not likely to really be expecting your AP bio knowledge to carry you through organic chemistry and the biology and all the lab work that you'll have to do there. So you will just have to do the classes again, and it is in your benefit. What happens if you're not a pre-med track? Well, it all depends on your major, and this is the reason why colleges will have to determine on the spot, based upon their own curriculum, how much of your APs will matter and how much they will not matter. So then you might be asking, ultimately, if this is up to the schools, and if the AP classes that I have taken are not a defining factor for my major, and they're not of such importance that the colleges are looking into those grades and thinking, wow, he or she got a 5, they're amazing, and let's just give them a credit. Why there's such a rush to be taking AP classes? Because they carry importance, even though you may or may not get credit at the end. I must mention here that Physics C is one of the APs that usually is awarded credit even by the top 10 and top 20 private public in the country. Most likely you'll be getting a credit for the Physics C class. But why is there such a rush? Because when they see your list of classes that you have taken, when you're a student who is just applying and they have to accept you and check and see your academic viability, they will be judging your preparedness based upon the curriculum that you have undergone. How much have you challenged yourself? If your school is offering 15 AP classes and you have just taken 2, are you a student who can carry out a rigorous academic work or not? And this is how they will judge your preparedness. So there is a merit in taking AP classes. I'm not for all the race and taking 12, 13, 14 APs and struggling at the end, feeling overwhelmed, and ultimately maybe not even doing very well on the final test, because some of you probably had a test, two tests on the same day, two different subjects, and that is not easy to do. So naturally, something has to give. One of them is probably a two or a three or a score you're not very happy to see. Nonetheless, you have to remember that colleges will look at your APs, they will look at your grades, they will look at your GPA, and they will surmise from that how prepared you are to tackle a rigorous coursework. Again, it depends on your major. If you are a student who is applying for computer science, but you have not taken AP, such as AP Computer Science Principles or AP Calculus, Calculus AB, Calculus BC, that will really tell them a lot about maybe you not having enough preparation in terms of, this, your STEM preparedness is not sufficient, or you're just not at the level that you need to be to tackle the curriculum that they have. And this is the reason why they take a look at your grades. So it is not just the GPA that they look at, but they look to see what kind of classes ultimately you have taken. So how are the AP exams scored? You should know that, so you can understand this really is nothing personal. It's not against you. You have not failed, so please relax. This is not a reflection of your knowledge. This is a little bit of a test taking strategies. Some might have test taking anxieties, and this is on the day of the test. In 2 hours, 2 hours cannot be a testament of your knowledge on a particular subject. You have to remember that you have an entire school year to show up in that class, to turn in homework, to participate, to take the quizzes, to take the tests that the teacher is asking you to take. And also, ultimately, some teachers do teach to the test, and others are giving you more of a broad knowledge. So it all depends on the teacher as well, the school that you're attending. There's so many factors, and you're not the only factor in this. So do not hold yourself accountable to the point of feeling depressed and thinking this is an ultimate reflection of your knowledge. So once you finish your exam, you have taken the exam on that day, you have finished your exam, they're being collected by a proctor, the proctor that is hired by the school, and then they turn in the AP testing papers, materials to be graded, to be scored. And the multiple choice questions are usually scored by a computer. It's a computerized process. They scan each sheet. It's a scantron. Students' multiple choice scores, they equal the total number of the correct responses in your answer sheet. And then there's some free responses, as you know. So this kind of free response, it's a reader that is scoring that, and that takes the longest usually. Usually takes anywhere from 2 weeks to maybe 2.5 weeks, and it is done in the beginning of June. And then the composite score is achieved from Scantron, the multiple choice answers, and the free section. And this is how these composite scores are then translated into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 score point, the point scale that you're aware of, and at the end you receive a number. Okay, so this is how usually your APs are scored. There are some exceptions for computer science, for example. Calculus A and B also vary a little bit. So usually there isn't much of a discrepancy between the scores you have received, the grade rather you have received in that class, and your final score on the AP exam. But again, it really all depends on your preparedness and how the teacher has approached the subject, and how much you have used separate materials to prepare. So when they look at the scores, what do they look and what do they see it when they see a 1, for example? That typically indicates that the student was largely unfamiliar with the material and the exam questions, which means there has been insufficient practice first and foremost. So, this is, what they look at and they see when they see a one. What do they think when they look at a two? According to, the experts, a two on the AP exam usually means that you're possibly qualified to pass a college level course offering. So, again, the key word here is possibly. And again, it's accounted for human error and your preparation and the teacher's preparedness and readiness to also teach an AP class. So, it is a pass nonetheless. What do they look at when they see? What do they see when they look at a number three score? Okay, so um, they deem this student to be qualified to pass a college course on this same topic. And the three usually translates into a B minus or a C grade. So if you received that kind of grade in class, and if you received a three on the exam, and then they're pretty much comparable. That just means that, this was your preparedness and this is where you're at, and your final grade was correct. What does a 4 mean on the AP exam? It really indicates that you have a strong grasp of the material, you're able to understand and effectively answer the questions, and you will have no issues passing a college testing or a college level material on the same topic. So you will be deemed, ready for college. And of course, it figures that a 5 means that you have a very solid understanding of the topic, and it just generally means that you are, well prepared for college. So as I mentioned, the AP Calc A and B slightly vary a little bit. So the subscore, there's, something called the subscore. In the calculus AB subscore, that is the terminology. You can look it up if you want to understand, how the A and B calculus, how the topics are intertwined in these two tests and what you can expect. Now, there's some schools that are in a league of their own, and when I say in a league of their own, I'm talking about MIT. So MIT in particular will want to see how much you have challenged yourself. This is what they're ultimately interested in. Okay, so they also give a similar importance to a honors class as they would to an AP class. They do not see a big distinction between the two. Both of these they have a very fast pacing, and they're equally challenging, except obviously the AP requires a final test, which is another measure of how well you understand the material. So yes, they will definitely like to see that as well. But the honors level class matters to them, especially, for example, honors physics. They will respect that very highly, because in some cases the honors physics class is even harder than the AP, because the AP is really a repetition of the honors class. But anybody entering an honors physics that comes from having not studied physics at all, or having studied just a regular physics class, jumping into the honors will require quite a stretch. And they know that, and therefore they really respect the honors physics class. So they give that a high importance. So it really depends upon the college at the end of the day, how your APs are looked at and the importance that they're given. So do not stress and do not think that this is the end of it all. And now that you have a two, this was all for nothing and you wasted your time. It's not like that, because you still have a grade in that class. And the colleges will look at everything you have taken and they will judge you based upon that. It is not easy to have 5 AP classes. It's not easy to have 3 AP classes in senior year. What about 5? So they really understand that. They understand that very well. Also, it depends on your extracurriculars. If you have been participating in sports, for example, all of that will be taken under consideration. So ultimately, the APs and all of your efforts, they will benefit you at the time of admissions. They will uh, all colleges will look at your preparedness and academic viability, and they will gauge you based on how much you have challenged yourself. So there is ultimate advantage in all the work that you have done and in your challenging yourself and proving that you're capable of handling a college level coursework. So, of course, something is to be said that the APs will develop skills. You'll develop reading comprehension, you will develop time management skills. You will definitely have an introduction to a college level material. So it is not just at the end of the day about the grade that you have received in that test. So the APs and the ultimate underlying principle of the AP class is to make you or to challenge you to think analytically, to challenge you to have a deeper understanding of a subject, and that's what matters at the end of the day. So, I do want to mention something because I've had many questions about how does the international, particularly the British system, which is well known in Europe, and it's in some schools in India, for example. So, how do the British universities look at AP exam scores, and do they really compare apples to apples? So, um, one thing about to remember if you're applying to international universities is that APs are the closest equivalent to A level classes, and the kind of measurement that, for example, the British universities will use. So they do not look at grades the way we interpret the grades here. So they do not expect their own grades to mean anything externally, outside of um, what the material is teaching. So they will look at your AP scores and they will take those and compare those as apples to apples to their system. So it is all about the local grade, the local system. They're not going to study the United States system and try to understand what you have earned, how you have been taught. None of that. When students from outside Emirates, India, China, when they apply to the United States here, we look at their grades and we try to understand their grade in the context of their education, and then only we try to interpret that in a very holistic way. It is not done like that if you were to be applying to international universities, specifically the ones that have the British system. Their APs are perfectly acceptable, and so are the IB grades. The IB system is perfectly acceptable in the British secondary schools, and they're highly valued. So fear not. So the three myths again that I really want to dispel. It's a myth number one is the AP classes are only for top students. This is not true. Anyone can enter an AP class, and with enough preparation and with enough due diligence and work, they can do really well. So this is nothing to fear. Do not be afraid of taking an AP class. The myth number two that I've been hearing a lot is that colleges do not care about APs. They do, and I just now gave you a long speech of how they look at it. And the answer is not black and white. Yes, they care. No, they don't care. Yes, they care. And then there is more to it, right? And the myth number three is that the AP testing is too stressful. It is not so. A student who is well prepared, who has been practicing, who has been using the materials, you can go to the college board, do the practice test, you can buy supplementals, and ultimately the teachers usually they have their own materials that are compiled, and they should be able to challenge you and teach you how to answer and what kind of answer ultimately matters, and how to word especially the three um, answers that you're giving, not the multiple choice, but how to structure those and how to write persuasively. So the most important thing to be successful is to manage your time accordingly, to be prepared. So study a little bit of ahead of time, brush up over summer, If you have a ton of APs lined up for next school year, make sure you get the books and kind of peruse through those books and be 2 chapters ahead. This is what I always advise. And make sure that you check on your own study strategies and see, do you lack in comprehension? Do you spend a lot of time studying, but at the end of the day, the results are not of your satisfaction? Then we will have to see, is there reading comprehension that is lacking? Is there something in the study skills and strategies that you're not applying? Are you familiar with the material and you stay too long in some sections and you feel like you know it, so there's that familiarity, but when you close the book you're unable to recall or identify the answer? So you go back and take a look and think very honestly, assess yourself, ask for feedback, and see how you can improve. Because the only reason why you would be spending so much time practicing and studying is so you ultimately can be successful and you don't have to hopefully go back at the same material a bunch of times now in college as well. Also, when you're taking the APs and you're applying to public schools, many times those public schools like the UCs, for example, they will have an entrance exam in math or English or both. And the reason why they want that exam is so they can place you effectively based on your level, so you're not too challenged or under challenged. And they'll ask you to take those exams in May after they've given you acceptance and after you have confirmed your interest to attend. But if you have taken the AP, let's say AP English Language and Literature or AP English Language and Composition, then you can opt out from these. You can share your score with them, and you will, you do not have to go and take that exam, because now the AP is a testament of your knowledge, and you have saved yourself from additional expense and additional time wastage at that time, especially in May. This is not, or June. This is not something you want to do at the end of your senior year, right? When you should be celebrating or, doing other things college related. So, should you ultimately plan to take APs? Yes, challenge yourself. Do not go overboard. This is not a competition. Look at the major you're trying to apply to, and try to align yourself with taking those APs that will actually showcase that you have interest in the matter. If you're a computer science major or prospective computer science major, obviously put a lot of emphasis on mathematics. If you're thinking of political science or anything humanities related, then obviously, put more time in the humanities area of the APs. So there's certain APs that also I would advise everyone to go to the College Board and take a look and see. If you're planning to take AP Research, make sure that you very carefully read how that will translate and what else you need to do, because that cannot be taken independently. So you have to commit to those two APs that go in tandem. So take a good look and see what it is that you have to do. Do not just sign up willy-nilly for APs just so you can have APs on your transcript. That may or may not be helpful at the end. Have a great one, everyone here. I hope this was helpful. I'll be back with more. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you later. Wishing you all a very good luck.